Hello everyone, greetings from our mom's basement. It's me, Deb, Van, Scaly, Zinc, Pep, and Soso. And this is episode number 2 of the Looks Rare podcast. What's up, gentlemen?
What's up, Deb? My mom's basement's feeling comfy today.
I wish I could live here forever, man.
Everyone's home for the holidays.
Yeah. So what do we talk about today, guys?
Clone X. Let's talk about it.
All right, so Clone X it is. Let's delve into the drama of Clone X versus Bored Apes, supposedly.
Can I just, first and foremost, because I hadn't looked at it yet, this website is pretty slick, man. They put a lot of effort into this.
Yeah, I actually hadn't even checked it out. It is pretty slick. I also didn't realize that they were called Artifact. I always was calling them RTFK, and I always got it mixed up. It's like, okay, Artifact. Felt kind of stupid.
Oh,
I just realized that right now, too.
I saw someone tweet something along those lines. I had no idea what they were talking about.
It's funny because the first time I heard about them was when they did that drop with Fuo, and they did the sneakers, and then they did the whatever that thing is called. My kids know what it is, homunculus or something or other. That little guy with the you know what I'm talking about on Nifty Gateway. That's when I first heard of that company, actually, and a friend of mine on Discord bought one. I thought it was pretty cool, so I ended up snagging one on Nifty Gateway.
To me, it feels like one of those like obvious in retrospect.
Their success shouldn't be that surprising. Like it has a similar kind of vibe, I think, as Bored Apes in terms of the polish and the terms of kind of a pretty intensive marketing. And I don't know, just they seem clean, right? And I think like looking back, obviously Bored Apes, they kind of look compared to most profile pic projects out there, like Bored Apes look pretty clean. And this is, I think it's maybe many of the same sorts of people attracted to both these projects.
Yeah, I mean, I guess compared to like Chad's or Alien Boy, it's pretty clean. But
yeah, and then but like they have the AR stuff seems to be working on. I've seen some cool videos. Like you said, the website looks really nice. Like obviously the Nike and the corporate aspect to it is also very similar to the Bored Apes, where it's very much aimed towards some sort of mainstream Web 2.0 world.
So these punk shoes are pretty cool. I mean, did you guys get consider buying these when they came out?
I did, but it was too expensive. It was like 2 ETH at the time. Was it 1 or 2? And I thought
it was 1.
I really thought it was a money grab.
I did too. I thought I was going to get it for free or like maybe like 0.1 or like the minting cost. And then because they were in DMs like previewing it and hyping it up and kind of getting me to hype it up because I was all excited. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here you can buy it for 1 ETH. And I was pretty turned off by that. But I mean, they are pretty cool.
Do you think that prevented you from sort of profiting from trades on this stuff later? Did you, like, mentally, was that a bit of a block? Because
it was. I mean, it kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I mean, honestly, I kind of felt like I was getting one for free because I was like an early punk guy and they were like hitting me up for that. And then when I found out that they were going to just basically charge me the same as they were charging everyone, which was quite a lot of money. And then for what? Like, what are you even getting? I didn't understand if it didn't sound like it was a real shoe even. But even if it was a real shoe, like why would I pay $4,000 for a pair of shoes I'm not going to wear? Yeah. So I was kind of turned off.
But were we actually getting real shoes with it, or was it just like a design?
I think
you
so,
could claim one. Yeah, you could eventually claim one, but I don't know how many people did that. And kind of to your point about, thinking we were getting it for free. I think it was right around the time when Meebits came around. So, that sort of airdrop happened where, or you can claim it for free. So, the expectation was already there that, owning the punk, you may possibly get this for free.
Yeah, we were entitled punk owners, I guess.
Exactly.
But, what's funny is the price action. So that other thing that you were showing earlier, Pep, the drop they did with Fuo on Nifty Gateway, the price action on that's kind of interesting. Like the price on that shot up whenever it was a couple of months ago. I remember no one told me he sold his for like 10 ETH. And, this is something I bought for like $3,500 on Nifty Gateway. When it dropped, it was even less. $1,500. And so I couldn't believe no one sold one for 10. And I listed mine for like 8 or 9 and it sold. And I was stoked. That was a great profit. And I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like it that much. And the floor on that is still only like 4 ETH, which to me is kind of interesting if you think about the Clone X floor and what it's doing. Like this is an earlier project. It's with Fuo. There aren't that many. It's pretty scarce. And I'm kind of surprised that it's still so cheap.
I think a lot of people aren't familiar with like Nifty Gateway. They don't feel comfortable buying from there.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's also kind of hard to sort. And if you don't know, like if a lot of new people are coming in and just looking at this most recent drop, then they may not even know about it. But
Exactly.
yeah, I guess the other thing is that these are editions, right? So they're all the same, whereas technically the new ones. I mean, what do you guys think about this whole concept of calling a PFP a one of one? I mean, technically it's unique, but I mean, give me a break. There's 10,000 of them.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Yeah, I would consider more of an addition of 10,000 than a one-on-one.
Because that sort of gets into the grifters, market, right? For the X copy, they're 666, and they're going for what, 10 ETH, 11 ETH, which seems like a lot for an edition of 666. But then I guess the slight difference is that technically they're all unique. There's no one that they're not technically editions.
How would you guys look at something like grifters, like an edition of 666, which with like different attributes versus something like Afterburn, edition of roughly 880 or so? That's I think last time I checked, the floor was like roughly 5 ETH.
Yeah,
It's actually not that
all
much.
things being
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like, would you prefer an Afterburn or a grifter?
Grifter
Yeah.
for sure. There's definitely something to the fact that like it's yours, right? Like it is unique to some degree, whereas the Afterburn, I mean, it's exactly the same as everyone else's.
Yeah, I mean, there's some grifters that I think are amazing. Like TV shared the one earlier that had the mouth from Mortal, which is like one of the sickest X copy editions in my opinion. I think 4156 has like the monopoly on those, but yeah, they're so amazing, and I think that's the Mortal that you shared was the only one that I've seen so far.
That one's grifter number 77 if you want to pull it up, or 007.
I guess it goes back to that point, right, where I don't know if it's necessarily Nifty Gateway or
So nice.
other sites, but it is hard for people still, for some reason, to kind of look across an artist's full output, right? Like people are just looking on, I don't know, an OpenSea contract or on OpenSea and looking at whatever shows up. It's, if something's minted on a different contract, it just completely gets disappeared. Those meme Fuosiuses, I feel like, are really still very cheap. And like even some of the Coldie stuff, like you have this previous async work was going for less than the current pieces, right? And there's much fewer of those previous asyncs, right? It's just funny to me that people still don't tend to search very hard on this stuff.
It's just difficult to search on these sites too, right? Like if you try to use Rarible, it's just unusable. Like you can't look through anything on Rarible. Like even on OpenSea, if you search for X copy, you may end up with like his collection from Nifty, for instance, but then there's the known origin, or then there's async or super rare or whatever. I think the website still could improve some like search functionality, across all platforms, not just taking a shot at OpenSea or anything. But even on like known origin, it's tough to like search for through the secondary market for X copy and whatnot.
Yeah, there is an aggregator site that someone told me about, but I forget. I tried using it and it actually didn't work as well as I would have hoped. And I don't even think you could sort on it. So like what you guys are talking about is, for example, if I want to look at a Hackatao piece, there's no one place where you can look at all the Hackataos. It's impossible. Yeah. And it's so ridiculous, like all the little shortcuts and tricks you got to do to find them all. It kind of makes it fun because I found a couple of deals back in the day. It's not as easy to find them now, but you can't just display on a page like what are the 10 lowest priced Hackatao pieces across all platforms. Like there's no way to do that.
That's the key. It's like you can have Rarible, OpenSea, known origin, all priced at different prices, and they'll sit there for a long time at these different prices. Like anyone buying the high one, right? They just didn't look that hard.
So what do you guys think about this trend? I mean, I kind of like it. It seems like not real, but like OG established crypto artists are getting into these PFP-like projects, but they're making them a little different. I mean, this month alone, we have A Lot of Money, Xcopy, Hackatao, and Coldie. The three of those are on async, and then Hackatao is doing their own with Sotheby's, where it's kind of one-of-one PFP type stuff done by a high-profile artist. I think it's definitely going to elevate the whole trend of PFP stuff. I mean, they're a little different than PFPs, but they can still be used as them.
Yeah, I think it's good for PFPs, and I think it's good for edition and like one-of-one art, because I think so many participants in like the PFP space and like the, from the like more recent participants from the last NFT run up are like, just they're more familiar with PFPs, right? They're just not familiar with the one-on-one arts. And like, I was so surprised, like how few people were familiar with like someone like Hackatow, right? Who is like, obviously very renowned amongst artists, and even like Coldy, right? Like a lot of people who are, mostly profile picture, like whatever connoisseurs you want to say, aren't like particularly familiar with this. So I think this will provide like a nice crossover for people who are only into profile pictures to get into more art, and people who are maybe more on the art side to embrace this more profile picture type culture, Yeah,
I think we're going to still need some tools like social media to help educate people, right? Like I think this is probably something that's an issue for a lot of the profile pic projects, is that no one knows what half of them are. And there's also like people just using whatever they want on like Twitter. I think we all know, and I think a lot of people who are kind of tied in know who Coldy and Xcopy and Hackatow are, but it's like, that's I think still very much an inside reference, right? Where you put that as your profile pic. Not everyone's going to get it.
I noticed when Hackatow, for example, sends out a tweet, like they don't get a ton of engagement compared to even Cryptodes or some other project. And it's funny because they're such like OG artists, but yeah, they don't market themselves quite as well as they could.
I think a lot of the new collectors right now, like a lot of people that came in during the summertime, and not a lot of them are familiar with the OG artists. I was talking to a friend who's been collecting PFPs for a while. He had no idea like what made Xcopy so special, or a lot of money, or Coldy. So it's definitely interesting to see like a new batch of people diving into this.
Should we go back to Async and we could talk through what that was quickly?
Yeah.
I think it worked well. It gave everyone a fair shot.
The price isn't dumping as much as we wanted to.
Worked out well for us. I mean, how many people here won one?
I think all of us, no? Except
I didn't win one.
Yeah, I don't have
I'm
one.
so happy for you guys. Really.
You guys got two, right? They got a pre-sale on the whitelist, and then you won afterwards, right?
No one did the meme contest. He earned
No
it.
one won by a meme. Yeah.
Didn't no one buy a whitelist one, sell it, and then replace it with the one he won? Like it's almost like he knew.
No one is Xcopy.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was going to say is I shared this raffle 15 minutes, and I've got maybe 3 or 4 hangouts. I've got you guys, NFT crew. I've got a very small token crew. I've got a larger Discord that I'm in, but it's still quite small in the scheme of things. And I thought, right, I've got to share this now, quick, and I shared it with my really tight group of friends, and they were all over it. I shared it in a 70-man deep Discord full of people that are hunting out crypto alpha all day, and I think maybe 2 people entered. And then about an hour later, people came back and said, shit, missed this, and now they can see it all over Twitter, and they've realized that they could have entered it as well. And okay, maybe it was only a 60-1 shot or an 80-1 shot, but it highlights what we were saying a moment ago, that crypto people don't really seem to have that awareness of NFT art and what's popular there, what's important there. So,
but they definitely have awareness of buying something for 0.25 and selling it for 12.
Right. Yeah.
That definitely gets their attention.
Yeah. Exactly.
Everybody understands that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this async, so it's async blueprints, right? And the Genesis launch were these 3 artists who are considered definitely top 10 crypto artists, I would say. Obviously, Xcopy, Coldy, and a lot of money. And do you guys think this will have particular value, not just because of who the artists are and how they look, but because it's like the Genesis piece of this new platform? Or do you think that part is...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you look at the early super rare tokens, I mean, there's certainly a premium on the, some of the earlier Genesis pieces.
For me, it's inspiring. I mean, this is the first project that I've actually been excited about. This set of projects that we're talking about, the Hackatow one and this async one. It's the first one I've personally been actually stoked about. I mean, I have a lot of involvement with these artists, so I was able to get on the whitelist of 3 out of the 4, which doesn't hurt. But still, I just think it's a high quality kind of moving the space forward type of project, as opposed to just some other Banana Kingdom PFP or something.
The async, though, has been around for quite some time. I think this is going to give it a lot more profile. They really were struggling. It's a really interesting piece of technology, right? Like they were really early on this, time sensitive, and the art changes based on some external factors. And that's kind of their whole point, right? That these different layers get turned on and off depending on some outside factors. Either the person who owns the thing can turn it on and off, or person who, or like there's some time or some sort of other triggers. And so it is a really interesting technology, but it has kind of flown under the radar for a long time. And I think this is going to really help get them some actual real profile in terms of, people are going to start caring about this because they really look nice, right? The Coldie one looks really nice. Xcopy obviously is just, pretty iconic. I mean, a lot of money. Yeah, the banners are really cool.
This is a slightly different project than earlier async. I mean, it's a separate contract, right? So the way that the blueprints are going to work, I think, is a little mysterious. Does anyone know more about it than me as far as how this will work? Because like Zink was saying, the original async art is you buy the master and then you can buy each piece, each layer on the master separately. And if I own one layer on the master, then I can change its state on the blockchain. And then whoever owns the master, that'll change on their end. So if they're displaying it, for example, like the Last Supper, I think is a good one, something like, and if you change one state of the layer, it'll change the whole painting for whoever owns the master. It didn't get much mainstream appeal, but then I think this blueprint is a different contract and sort of a different mechanism of how these are all going to interact with each other. And it seems like it's really smart and clever and probably going to get them a lot more attention.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because I think all the artists have minted something on the previous contract too. I'm not sure about a lot of it. Definitely, like Lander's middle finger, right? That's a piece. I think on one of these async masters that Xcopy contributed to. And then Coldie has a pretty iconic piece as well. The guy's walking away on that long line, and you can just buy each individual guy. It's funny to me. It's not really a new platform in any sense, and it's not had like a shortage of good artists on it. But I think you're right. Like this blueprint style is going to be really good for them. I think it's way easier to bring people in. I think that the biggest part, I think, of this NFT art is the social aspect. That's like the biggest advantage you have over any sort of traditional types of art is if you can get people building a community around what you're doing because it's already online and it's like everyone involved is kind of natively online, then you get that buzz that keeps on going, which I don't think you ever really get with any traditional art. That community part, I think, is like, the huge secret sauce of NFTs.
So going back to the CloneX thing, I had a couple questions. One is, what do you guys think about the fact that the vials, which are basically unrevealed, are going for so much more than the floor of the revealed ones?
Speculation, man.
Yeah, there's such an outsized return if you get a hit, right? If you get a floor, it's like whatever. But if you get this is the Murakami trades.
The Murakami, yeah. If you're hoping to get that, then I guess the EV, it's all kind of calculated into the EV, right?
I saw some post of a guy. He sold a vial when it ended up spawning for the guy who he sold it to, and it was like some dragon Murakami. Like 150 ETH.
Oh man,
looking, like that just be gut wrenching, right? Like you gotta get the reveal.
Do you have any prediction on are these people going to regret spending 150 ETH on a CloneX or no?
Probably.
Most
I don't know. Is there
super
how many
risk.
things? What else could you buy for 150 ETH?
Imagine
like 2 Fidenzas.
Fidenzas, yeah.
A Lamborghini, and then a year's worth of maintenance on a Lamborghini.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
That's interesting. Like the price, like just price discovery of like the entire market in general. Like you guys were talking about like the profile pictures versus like artists and stuff. That was something I always felt pretty strongly about. Like the high end artists, their editions, I felt like were always undervalued relative to like, the floor of like these edition of whatever 10,000 profile pictures.
It's so hard, right? Because if you have a really top piece though of a very popular collection, it's known, right? Like you instantly have something to show off and people will care about it. And like, I guess if you have lots of ETH, then, maybe that sort of social fame is what you're kind of craving.
The social fame is definitely part of it.
Yeah. It's hard to know what that matters in terms of, like what's motivating people here, because it's different than I think traditional art a lot. Like if you were to compare these to traditional art pieces, of course you're going to find stuff from the 50s and stuff from the 19th century or whatever. Like you're going to find things that are going to go for $10s and $20 million, right? But this isn't that. We've only been doing this for a year, right? So we clearly have not done a Renaissance worth of stuff in 1 year. So clearly we're going to have better stuff come out in the future. I don't know that, but on the other hand, so you like if compared to pricing of art, then it's this stuff's kind of crazy. But it's the other hand, like it's just a completely different market. Like people are able to market this stuff to millions of people.
Yeah, I bought a Murakami 1 of 300 print when I was in Vegas this summer, and I really loved it. And I was with my girlfriend, and she loved it, and it was just fun. And I was like, the sticker price I think was $9,000, and I talked her down to like 7,500 or something, or 8,000 or whatever it ended up being. And, the kind of word on the street was it's a terrible investment to buy Murakami's right now because his traditional art market is crap. He overproduced to try to get himself out of bankruptcy. And I don't know all the details, but a couple people told me like, don't buy that as an investment. And I didn't. I bought it because it's art and it's beautiful and it's in my house now and I love it. And I don't really plan on selling it. Plus, how the hell would I even sell it, right? I live in Hawaii. But it's just funny that costs basically 2 ETH, and it's a beautiful piece of art that's, relatively limited edition, 1 in 300, although he made a lot of different series that are similar. And then you compare it to these NFTs, which are going for freaking $600,000. And I don't know, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, at some level, it's absurd, right? On any real objective evaluation. But then it's like it's all this potential is kind of wrapped up in it. So there's not everything is going to do well eventually. So there's some stuff's going to look bad. Like, I don't know. We've already had that, right? This is not like a new thing. Like, I know some of you guys got into Euler Beats early on too, right? Like, and there's some pretty questionable looking sales. I think people might kind of regret what they sold them for back in the spring. Not everything ages well.
Right? most things don't age well.
And it's like, it's crazy, but at the same time, I'm sure people thought some XCOPY purchases in the spring were crazy too.
I was pretty stoked about my XCOPY No Future that I got for 12 ETH, which was like, 6 months ago or something? Even less. I remember going into the chat with you guys and I found it. I couldn't believe I found it. And I needed like some kind of encouragement to buy it. And I said, does 12 ETH seem like a good price for this? And then Colby responded, is this a trick question? I was like, crap, he's going to buy it first. And I like fumbled. I rushed to the computer and put it in my ledger and like bought it instantly. And I'm like, wait, I just showed it to like a fucking room full of degens. Why did I do that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That speaks to, right. It ties back into like the search feature aspect, right? Like I remember that next day was like almost when that XCOPY like hysteria kind of kicked off. I think it was the next day that K Rose sale happened. Was it, or was it that when he bid 900 ETH on
was it right click save?
No, that wasn't right click save. I know he bought when airdrop for like a criminal price, like 200 or something, like just so cheap. Yeah, I don't know if it was the bid or that sale, but anyway, yeah, I remember the next day waking up and like there was that frenzy, and I'm like looking for any kind of deals. Like I'm like, oh my god, I dragged my feet. Like I'm gonna get priced out forever, just like everybody else. But yeah, no one, of course, somehow, because he is XCOPY, obviously. He's like, oh, I found a deal for 14 ETH here. So I'm like, I bought it right away, whatever. Thrilled with my XCOPY purchases. Obviously, he's, in my opinion, I think in many people's opinions, the most important living artist, stealing that quote from 4156. And
so which piece did you end up getting? I forget.
I got Exposure.
Nice one.
The other thing is the whole contract thing, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people who are newer to the space even understand that, like, Known Origin, for example, or Super Rare have their own contract, especially with the older pieces. Like, I have a Hackatao piece from Known Origin, and it's on the old Known Origin contract. So it doesn't show up on OpenSea unless you, like, very specifically look for it. It's almost impossible to find. Like, I go to my collection, find it that way to find the other ones. And actually, it shows 10, even though there's only 5, because 5 were minted and then blocked, basically. But there's no way that you would know that. So, like, the whole thing's very opaque and confusing. I
just went and checked the Euramaran XCOPY one, and I remember finding for like 3 or 4 ETH. I never pulled the trigger on it. The floor is now 27, 69, 79. Like another one of those things where it would have been impossible. It's a Known Origin contract. You have to look by created of the artist kind of thing.
Yeah, these were sitting for like a bunch of them were sitting sub 7 ETH for a while. But yeah, I think again it speaks to the fact that a lot of it's just difficult to navigate these sites at the moment.
I feel like in the general market trend, I'm kind of noticing that art, which makes perfect sense, right? Like, it seems like slowly but surely, the more respected artists and their pieces and works are starting to kind of go up and up and up and up. And a lot of these crappy projects that came out in the summer that everyone was all hyped on are kind of losing steam and slowly starting the death march to zero or close to zero. Would you guys agree?
It's only going to get worse, man.
Yeah, definitely.
100% agree.
Yeah, for sure. The divergence between quality and crap is only going to, I assume, be magnified as the time progresses.
Like particularly where the supply, we're talking about stuff where the supply is so low.
Like the only things that are getting attention now that aren't good art are just like the newest, most hyped thing. And then people are going apeshit on it and spending all this money. It's almost guaranteed to be a bad investment when you're buying at these prices. I don't understand it. And then it's like the next new thing will come out in a month and then everyone's going to ape into that and sell all their crap to get enough ETH to buy that.
It's sad, man, because a lot of people spending their money are like young people, not young people, or people new to the space and they have no common sense of what they're doing. It's like they read a couple of tweets here and there by some influencers and they start buying these crappy projects and they all get dumped on. It's horrible.
Do you guys feel pretty fortunate that we made because we were all like that when we entered, like bought stupid things and wasted our money. But I feel like the stakes were so much lower. Yeah. You can make all these mistakes and then learn from what's happening and meet a bunch of people and then, kind of start talking it over with other people. I feel like you're entering now and you're jumping in and you're buying Clone X files for $10,000. Right.
Like in February, March, like the amount of money that you could spend back then to speculate on an NFT isn't even sufficient for, gas. It's, like you said, the stakes were substantially lower for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the projects are way more extractive. Like they're taking a lot more out at the top. Like if you look at like Kongs, they're basically free, right? You had to just be kind of paying attention and getting on it, right? Punks are obviously free. Even apes are very cheap, right? For given what, given what ETH was and everything like that at the time. And I don't know, it just feels like now things are quite extractive and there's quite a lot of people willing to like charge quite high amounts.
Let me ask you guys a question. What's the most you've ever spent in US dollar terms on a NFT?
It's my Tiara Punk, 190K. Which I don't regret one bit, actually.
Yeah, that was a good buy.
That's a great punk, yeah.
Hopefully it ages well. Who knows? It might fucking dump to like 20K, but I'm okay with that.
I think the most I've ever spent on an NFT was about $50,000. That was on a punk that I ended up selling for about $100,000 2 weeks later.
Which one was this?
Oh, it was a welder, welding goggle, Mohawk punk. And it was kind of one of the many times that punks were just going ape shit in those little mini pumps. The smarter play would have been just to hang on to it, but I bought it and sold it. And then with that profit, I really wanted to buy this Joy piece. And so I used all the profit to buy a Joy 101.
And how's that going? Is Joy doing great now? Or is it...
No, he's kind of dormant. I still believe in him as an artist, and the fact that he's kind of considered the first virtual reality sculptor is pretty badass. But I don't think he's really reached any kind of mainstream attraction, or not many people know about him or his works. And plus, they're very expensive. Even now, they're quite expensive. Like the floor is probably like 20 to 30 ETH, maybe even more.
I was gonna say for like an OG artist, like Joy is, like I'm surprised we didn't see or hear any more noise or whatever during the like the height of NFT runs at all. Like it's just like you said, very quiet. Despite having like very nice art that speaks for itself. Like Joy was somebody that I was pretty excited about when I was new to the space. I'm like, wow, this is like really cool, and join the Discord or whatever. But probably like you said, there just hasn't been a lot of ways to access his pieces.
Yeah, so I ended up, I didn't like the lack of liquidity there and the kind of lack of development. And so more as an investment decision, I ended up, someone asked me, got in my DMs and wanted to trade for that piece and obviously really wanted it. So I ended up making a trade, kind of a blockbuster trade with him. It was actually pretty sweet. We used an intermediary and it was some guy who, he's a Nifty Gateway moderator. So we sent everything to him and then he sent, the stuff to each of us. And it was just kind of a complicated deal. And then at the end, everything happened really well. There's a slight moment there where I was like, I hope I'm not getting rugged. The guy said that was like the most assets he's ever held in his wallet at one time. And he was like all nervous that he was going to fuck it up too. It was pretty funny.
What was the other end of the trade?
Yeah, so I traded my Joy, which is the number 7 ever created, becoming the Gemini. And I valued it at 100 ETH is what I told the guy. And so he threw the kitchen sink at me. He gave me 2 Coldie editions on Nifty Gateway and then a Coldie 101 music video with the Bauhaus on Nifty Gateway. And he threw in 20 ETH.
Wow.
For the deal. which I'm still looking back on it.
It's a pretty sweet deal.
That's amazing deal. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we're big fans of Coldy, friend of the show.
Yeah, we love Coldy. So, and I didn't. The kicker was I didn't have any Coldy pieces at that time, and I really, really, really wanted some. But the earlier point of my question was like so. For example, a Coldy piece at the time was like 30 ETH, and I don't buy NFTs for $100,000. Like I don't know if like Deb, you bought the tiara, but like Van and everyone else on the chat, like how much? What's the most you guys have spent for an NFT? I would guess it's not that much.
Are we saying like we've spent USD for, or
you can use ETH, but I'm just saying the US dollar value at the time when you bought it.
My most expensive was exposure. I think it was around 40 or 50K at the time.
Yeah, it's 25,000.
It was fairly recent. It was it was X copy also. It was Deadness 25 ETH. I think it was about 100K. But like when you purchase with ETH, it doesn't feel like you're spending 100K though, which is like so different from initially when I got into NFTs. When I purchased my Punk, I had to exchange USD in order to buy the ETH. In order to purchase it, it felt different at that time.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, so I guess another question would be, which is a different question, is when's the last time you put in any money from your bank account to buy an NFT versus just using money you've already made?
Last year, man. I think that was the last time I ever put in some fiat into NFTs. And I think it was last November. So November 2020.
December 2020 for me.
Wow,
sometimes
December 2020, OG.
Oh, wow. Sometimes if I'm like, don't have my ledger around, I'll throw some cash into an exchange and try to get some ETH quickly. But yeah, nothing large ever. Like, I don't know if I've put in that much money ever, to be honest. I don't know how much you guys started with, but like definitely less than 10,000 for me.
Same.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I started with way less. This year, though, I've just used the fiat purchase option if I've wanted to buy something, and it's maybe cheap if it's only a few $100s or $1,000 or whatever, and it's quicker than topping up ETH or other crypto. I've just used the credit card or the debit card.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Like thinking back now, with the Damien Hirst purchase, that was all in fiat for the most part. I think most people chose to go that route.
Yeah, I actually paid ETH. There was one ETH at the time, which was $2,000. Yeah.
I think for me, it was like 0.85 or 0.89.
Oh, maybe, yeah. But my point is, so like all of us here love NFTs. We live, eat, breathe, sleep them. Yet we don't have the conviction to put in 500K or, 100 ETH into an NFT of any sort, let alone a freaking, PFP of the week. Like who the hell are these people buying these things for 150 ETH?
That's exactly what I want to know myself, man. Like how many elites are there out there, man? It's insane.
I mean, we were talking earlier about whether buying vials for a potential 5 ETH loss was a good bet, right? And it's just about scale, maybe. So for us in Profile Pick season, buying 10 mints at 0.25 ETH, that was a positive EV bet that we might hit a rare, and if not, we can sell for floor. And then you scale that up, that's the vials. But I assume these people spending 150 and 200 ETH on some of this stuff, these are people that can afford to make those size bets, whether it's Basie or whether it's Clone X or whatever it might be. I guess they're betting on it being the next Punk. They're betting on it being the next, don't know. But yeah, these are people that can afford to take spray and pray bets at that scale.
My sentiment on that, though, like I think you're right. There are definitely people that can do this. But just the Twitter sentiment of people that make these purchases and then immediately are writing threads about why they bought the thing, which is like the most annoying thread on the planet, right? But like my sense of that is that these people are conflating consumption and investment. They're pretending that it's an investment, but in reality, they're they like being able to be the center of things, right? And this is a really risky thing, and like who can't, like, it's crypto, right? So you got to take your own risk and you got to own your own losses and stuff like that. But I do think there's people that are definitely overextended, like don't quite realize how risky these things are, right? Like Art Blocks was the sure thing in August, September, right? And look how quickly it fell. Like all these things have potential to come crumbling down, right?
The slow bleed, right? The slow bleed is so painful, where it happened with coins for me in 2018. And, I'd be down 10% and I'd be down 20% and I'd be down 25%. And I'm just thinking, just one more pump and I'll sell it. And then it'd be like a micro pump for like 6 hours. I'd be at work and then I'd be like, okay, well, I'll just let it go up a little bit more and then I'll sell. And then it would go down 30%, and then over 6 months, it goes down 90%. and you're left holding absolutely nothing.
The worst culprits for that were the ones with the biggest crowds of true believers, so Cardano and stuff like that really super slow bleed, because gradually, just bit by bit, the bag holders lose hope.
So the lesson of the story is just like sell into the pump, guys, if you want to make money. And don't buy
the moral of the story. Buy things that you actually like. So
it's true,
very large possibility that you're going to be left like, you know, in a non-profitable situation, right? So like make sure, like, you know, that's the thing, you know, when you're like, oh, even people like us that love these NFTs, like we have a difficult time, you know, making these purchases for whatever 100 ETH or whatever the case may be. I'm like, yeah, that's for sure the case, right? Like, because, you know, I've always viewed it as if like, if I bought a punk, like it would be the punk that I'd want to hold like forever. Right. So like, to me, that wouldn't be an investment. It would be something like money gone. Right. So yeah, you know, spending 500K and just like, if you're like internalizing it as something that's not an investment, but more like art or whatever luxury purchase for yourself, like that's, you know, so there's different participants, you know, like we, a friend of the show, of course, you know, I mean, no one's done better than him over the last year, but, you know, he's had the luxury of enjoying being the owner of these, like, you know, absolute grail X-Copy pieces, and also, you know, reaping some financial benefit when he felt that time was appropriate, right? So that goes to saying that, you know, there's different participants and there's different reasons why people buy things, but don't just speculate because, you know, you think it's going to be the next whatever, right? Like buy things that you actually enjoy, because the likelihood of you being stuck with it is quite high, especially, you know, with given market conditions as they are.
Gotta be careful what you listen to in this space. Like really gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Especially like people like for example, I'm not saying anything bad about 4156, but he wrote threads and stuff about, you know, investing in NFTs, and you know he paper handed it his ape there. Well, you know he made 10 million off of it, which is great. But I mean, you got to be careful if you're splurging millions, man, on some NFTs, because people are looking to sell.
I'm constantly asking myself, who's the end bag holder, right? So with the coin goes to zero. You don't want a coin, but NFTs have an emotional attachment and all that. And presumably if it's art, you just want to have it. But, you know, at the same time, if you look at your own collection and you see stuff that might be worth 20, 30, 40 ETH, and you think about how much money that's actually worth, like, do I really want to have this freaking JPEG, or would I rather have that money? You know, like, yeah, I like having it, but when the number gets so high, it kind of gets absurd. And then the question is, who's the end buyer? Like, who's going to buy that for me? And then what are they going to do with it? Are they just trying to sell it for more money, or do they actually just want to have it? And I think there's very few people who are willing to just hang on to it and never sell it because they love it so much.
Oh, yeah. I would be very curious to know, you know, a lot of this money coming in, if it's, you know, crypto gains. Because, you know, we did have a lot of people make enormous amounts of money, you know, life-changing money as, you know, through crypto. And I'm guessing, you know, some of this is flowing into NFTs. So, you know, when you've bought ETH, you know, when it was at $12, you know, it may not feel, you know, like a big purchase when you're spending a bunch of ETH, you know, after having accumulated at such a, you know, a low basis.
So you're saying that the eventual top buyers of the NFT market are just the crypto rich that have yet to FOMO into NFTs, and they're going to do that late cycle, end cycle, the very last thing. The billionaires are coming.
Exactly. Aren't we all hoping this? They're gonna all buy our bag.
I think you just have to define in your head, like, what is the time period that you're thinking of here? And I think if you were like someone who's thinking 10 years or 20 years, like a long time, like really long time frame, like you would with art, you wouldn't be putting the money into most profile pic stuff or any social meme stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's people that have kind of convinced themselves that in 5 years, they're going to be able to sell profile pic number, you know, 2004. And, you know, it's just not going to happen, because we've just seen this, right? People are coming up with better versions of this stuff, and people want the newest things. So the social meme stuff is always going to be the latest thing. I couldn't imagine being a buyer of any of the meme stuff that people bought in the spring, right? When people were literally buying old memes. Like, it's just, people don't even know what those memes are anymore. Like, you know, it's just bizarre, right? But like, I think a lot of them, like Bad News Brian, like someone spent like 5 figures on this, right?
I felt like
that even exist as a meme anymore. Like, I have no idea.
Maybe a lot of those sales felt like retrospective crowd funds almost, or like Patreons or something for these people that we've exploited collectively for years, and then the richest amongst us have kind of compensated them eventually for their misery.
But I think that's like, I think if people had that, but people don't have that in their heads a lot, or not everyone, like some people are very smart in this space, but like there's a lot of people that don't have that in their heads where they are buying something and thinking that like, you know, whatever profile pic that is hot right now is going to be the thing in 10 years. It's just absurd to actually think that. Right, there'll probably be one or two just because of the novelty of being first that will end up doing something real, and everything will just be something that you jump from ship to ship. And so like the high prices of most PFP projects don't make any sense to me. Yeah, but art makes sense to me.
Going back to you know, I know we have up here. Yeah, he's had a very good approach, you know, in making sure that he does take profits, and I think, you know, that's a lesson for all of us. You know, you see him making sure that along the way he's taking these profits. It does seem like, you know, out of these influencers, he's been one that's been, you know, very good with that.
Value investing.
Exactly. Value investing.
It's great.
That's what he told us he does. The guy's brilliant, though. It makes you wonder, you know, where's the smart money going right now? And every time I see him make another sale, and you look at he's listing almost everything. Well, I don't know what percentage of his portfolio, but lots of good stuff for sale, and made some huge sales. What was the XCopy sale? How much was it?
$7 million, right?
$7 million XCopy sale. And he said in the post, you know, maybe that will be dumb in 10 years, but at the same time, he's taking risk off the table. I mean, I don't know what his personal situation is, but damn, if he's made 10 million plus profit this year on NFTs, like, good for him.
I like what he's doing with this banner right here, where he has just all of his, you know, iconic pieces, and he's kind of graying them out as he sells them off.
What a boss.
Yeah, that's a flex in itself. Nice. It's just like a boss move here.
That is awesome. Wow, that's a great idea. I love that.
And that's what I like about it. He's actually real. You know, he's actually telling us he's selling. He's not doing it without, you know, doing it undercover or whatever. It's really cool.
Exactly. He's very transparent, you know. Yeah. He's not trying to hide this. He's showing us that he's selling these pieces.
Watching this happen, right? You see all these profits. It can kind of feel like it's near the top, but it's kind of near the top of, you know, individual art investing or individual PFP project stuff, right? Like it's kind of at the top of the small stuff or the individual stuff. But like, you know, the size of the market is still so small compared to really even any other crypto stuff, let alone like collectibles market or fine art market in the traditional world. And, you know, like we know this stuff is going to become, it's addicting, right? And we know people like this stuff, right? So the infrastructure stuff, that's all going to be built out in the next, you know, few years to be able to scale these sorts of things. It's got to be huge, right? And I can't imagine a lot of these early guys probably getting in on trying to find, you know, that's the next big play, right? It's like, how do we scale this stuff for it's not just our own little Twitter community?
In some ways, I think the next big play is fashion. And obviously that's gotten a lot of hype lately with Adidas going with Pixel Vault and Nike going with Artifact. But like, how far away are we really from incorporating fashion? You know, they say metaverse fashion, but there's no metaverse really. And so that was the problem I had with those Artifact Punk shoes. Like, what do I do with these things? Why would I pay 1 ETH for these?
Someone's going to come up with a really cool AR app that's going to go with TikTok or some other social sharing site, and you'll be able to like wear your stuff and it will look seamless. It has to be the thing, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to have some sort of crossover with like these luxury brands, right? Like, you know, you can buy a watch in real life and have the whatever NFT in the metaverse to flex in the metaverse as well.
Yeah, I'm really surprised like Snap isn't doing something along these lines. Or like maybe I'm just so out of the loop on what these companies are, but seem to be like the companies that kind of got the AR stuff right early. Like they're perfectly primed for this sort of thing, right? And I think like, you know, some of the prices that we're paying now for NFTs seem pretty high. But if you're able to sell something to 100,000 people, you don't have to price it crazy, right? You could have like AR clothing and you can have tiers and sell some really high end blends and then just run it all the way down the demand curve. And because it's all digital and doesn't cost you anything like to actually make any of this stuff, right? You're just literally signing certificates.
Right.
You can make a ton of money.
That's so uninteresting to me because that's just like a CryptoKitty market where you have endless supply and it's great for the company selling it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how a company works. The company doesn't care about scarcity. Why would they? They want to just sell. And this whole concept of creating value for your collectors. I mean, Gucci's not, why would Gucci do that? They'll just sell metaverse purses until they can't, they'll sell them to anyone who'll buy one. And then why would there be a secondary market for that? Unless, would they play the scarcity game? And why would they bother? Why wouldn't they just sell as many as they can?
Yeah, unless they're playing some like cut of the secondary sales, it's tough, right? Because the thing that drives secondary sales in the actual luxury markets is there actually really is constraints on how much they can produce. And sometimes like we see like in the last few years, or at least a lot of these luxury prices of luxury items have gone up in price because it's just hard to get certain types of bags.
Right. That's a really good
point. Yeah, Plum on here for the luxury goods discussion.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But,
Plum, how hard is it to get these watches? Tell us.
But it's sort of like a proof of work, like you're saying, a proof of work in real life, because you can't actually get more Rolexes because whatever parts or labor they need for them isn't there. So there's scarcity that's real. But an NFT, obviously, you can make as many as you want. And so it will be interesting. I'm looking at it as an investment. I mean, if NFT fashion takes off and these companies do well, great. But how do I get in on that? And I don't necessarily see how we could invest in that and make money.
Yeah, I think the only avenue right now is building up your own brand. So I think there's going to be new brands that are going to be able to kind of conquer this digital space by itself, right? Just because they're different. And so that's also, I'm sure some of these old brands are going to not have a very good time here. They're going to get completely disrupted out, but then being friends with those people, somehow invest in them early.
Well, coming back to the artifact thing, like when the Nike thing was announced right around the timing of this drop, the floor doubled or tripled. And I get it, that's a good sign for the company, but why does that value, how does that value go into the drop with Murakami? But it has nothing to do with it.
I think you're right there. I think there's a lot of people in their heads think that just because something is known more, it should, the value is some intrinsic property of something and not necessarily a function of just supply and demand in the future. You have to believe Nike's just going to spam the market full of stuff, right? They have a million ideas, I'm sure, what they can do. And, right. Why would they keep it small, right? So,
they do have some concept of scarcity and collectibles. And so I guess I could see Nike making some limited edition things. And if you're lucky enough to get those, they could be worth a lot more. But for example, with this drop they just did with that Artifact just did, how is that going to trickle back to that? I don't necessarily see that happening at all.
I actually see Nike come up with some use cases, especially with, some of their high profile releases. They have, they have kind of similar problems to the NFT world where, it's just oversubscribed. So it's a way of getting access, to certain, let's say, shoe collab that's hot, and if you have the NFT, it guarantees you the shoe.
As they distribute more stuff, maybe it's almost like R&D. Maybe there's a positive feedback loop back. If the secondary for certain designers, certain shoes is flying, certain colorways, whatever it is, maybe perhaps the market starts to dictate fashion a bit.
No, it's a good idea because you can imagine them putting together some sort of designer workshop AR thing or some virtual reality designer workshop.
Yeah.
Right. And then one who sells the most, maybe that's just an easy way to identify talent in this sort of space, right? It's who's out there and who knows how to design digital fashion right now. Yeah, I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but I agree with you that is kind of the way you would take care of these things. And you use these dolls or whatever these clone things are. It's just kind of as your models, right? You have people who clearly have money, who want to spend it on this kind of stuff. You put a little put a little workshop together so anyone can make fashion for any of these things and see what people buy. Then there you go. You have a good sample right there of, kind of current snapshot of what people are interested in digital fashion. It looks like we solved NFTs for the next 10 years.
I think so. Let's have Deb do a couple questions real quick and then we'll wrap up.
Sure, a couple of questions and
5 minutes.
Let me just get the questions really quickly. Give me 2 seconds. Alrighty, so question number 1. Ulug Bek Teshabev asked, I am a painter whom is painting art using the digital medium. My store is called Kraken Seas. I'm not sure how I should be trying to sell some of my art. I have been a painter all of my life. So I think it's just being more, you got to be in the community some more, just be more interactive and communicate more with people on Twitter and start posting and start tweeting about your art, I would say. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's pretty close to what you need to be doing. Just this community is still small enough that, a couple retweets by, just anyone with decent sized followers is probably going to get most people's a glance at least. And then people then can figure out whatever they like. But I think there's the whole key, I think, to the NFT game is it is about the art a lot, but it's not really that's not the defining feature because there's art. It's not, that doesn't need to be NFTs. It's the social aspect of it, I think, is the key kind of secret sauce of NFTs. And so if you have a community, and you can see that from really successful artists who've kind of come from nothing, photographers that have broken into the scene that didn't really have any market beforehand because they engage with the community, painters engage with the community, and, they're able to sell their works because people feel kind of connected to that person, right? And you get that kind of connection where if you're at a gallery and you see a painting, almost never will meet the artist. And you don't have a real good connection of what they're doing or why they're doing it. Right. So then it's is that pretty or not? And that's the only decision you're going by. Whereas I think, the NFT thing, the reason why people spend so much money is because they kind of feel part of it. They kind of feel like they're actually, supporting people directly.
One of the best things you can do is when you're an artist, if someone does buy your piece, is interact with them afterwards and maybe give your interpretation of it. Or I love it when artists have done that for stuff I've bought.
Next question, it's from Vin One Penny. Is there anything that has real utility right now? Utility that's not bound to the project being worth a ton of money.
Anyone want to take that one?
I mean, you have the Kevin Rose token, right? The proof token that went out last week that gives you access basically to Kevin Rose and a small community for 3 years. So that would be maybe one example of a utility. It's like a gated token that allows you access to the Discord community.
Be friends.
It depends what your interpretation of utility is there, right? Utility in alpha sense, or utility as in you can use your whatever as access, your Bored Ape to access a Bored Ape meetup, for instance, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the communities, it'll be interesting to see how all these communities progress, assuming that there is an NFT bear market, that it continues. Yes, but we'll see. That's a good question.
It's going to be an amazing thing to see. So next question from Samsara. What do you think about real estate development and rental market in the metaverse? Do you know any good projects, and what is the best way for landlords to create value? So
the only one is Decentraland, I think, right? That has any real sense that people are using, maybe CryptoVoxels.
I know
people sometimes rent from them.
Somnium Space, and he was renting his estate. I think he was making about $1,000 a month USD, which is pretty decent, man. It's really good.
Yeah, there's a pretty nascent markets, but it's starting, I think, these games. That is artificial scarcity, but if people want to have access to these sorts of things, then I think you have to pay. And the floor prices of these things are all really expensive right now, right? So maybe $1,000 a month is reasonable rent.
Yeah, and it almost ties back to the last question about utility, right? That's being able to buy a parcel of land and then rent that out. That's useful. There are game assets that I've got that I've been renting out.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that's really interesting to me, because it's not also even about the land, right? The land itself, I'm sure they could add more parcels, but I think there's going to be, to the extent that people can kind of keep control over their builds. So I don't know to what extent stuff will be able to easily be copied or these sorts of things, but there might be some value in people building interesting stuff on these places that other people then might be able to use. So I think that the Kiwanis is going to be a profession the next few years. So not necessarily who knows where it's going to be, but not necessarily you see all these Minecraft builders and Sandbox are going to, I think, make a killing in the next year once they open up. I'm not even joking. I think that's going to be something most people don't know how to do.
I know a guy from 2018 from the MLB crypto days, and he is now a voxel builder. And he said he's working nonstop. He's making build after build after build. People hire him to do it.
Yeah, if you're a brand, you want to have a space for when all these brands opened up huge lots in the Sandbox, right? They're all going to need this stuff. They can't just be flat land. They have the things for people to do there, right? And so these people are going to get paid.
I wonder if the oldest profession will make its way to the metaverse.
Oh man, that'd be amazing for people who are not good with women.
I'm surprised though. That was always the thing people talked about, right? Like all this stuff's going to move online, VR and stuff like that. And I feel like that I don't know, I have no idea what's out there, but
it definitely is. Did you guys see that chart that I think it was like DeFi God posted, like the male virginity rate over time? I mean, it's like so funny, but yeah, I mean, if you want to pull up some serious alpha, the male virginity chart over the over time is really where it's at. That's the alpha of the show.
Is it going up or down?
Oh, it's rocketing up, dude. It's going parabolic.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody,
Oh my goodness.
it's crazy out there. Yeah.
Okay, I would expect with Tinder and everything would be, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's something like 27%, something obscene.
Yeah. I remember the thread.
Wait a minute. You guys aren't virgins?
That's a famous chart, right?
Yeah.
Despite being involved in NFTs and crypto, we're not virgins, no. Yeah, there you go, 27%. Oh, it's got to be even higher now.
Mention of Bitcoin, bro.
That's the exact same graph as the price of Bitcoin.
30 under 30.
Right, wow. Deb, let's do one more question and then we got to wrap up.
Yeah, sure.
Mama's basement's getting a little warm down here.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So how will institutional investors enter the market and in what form?
They mean NFT
I think it would just be like some sort of like index fund type, like allocate. I imagine like, that would be my guess that like there would be, whatever fund, whoever's fund, insert name, and they would like allocate some portion of their funds to, whatever blue chip NFTs, for instance, like they'd invest in some punks. And then, maybe some portion of the portfolio allocated towards like, art, like we said, XCOPY, Coldie, Alata, Hack, whatever. And then maybe some percentage of the portfolio allocated towards, gambling on new NFTs or maybe on GameFi or whatever. Like that's my imagination of how funds or institutions would get involved.
Well, it started already. I think Matt Hoogan from Bitwise Invest today, he released a statement that he invested in 10 NFTs. It was CryptoPunks, some Bored Apes, some VeeFriends, and a bunch more. I have to check them out.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Fidenza, Autoglyph, some Meebit, Chromie Squiggles, a Cool Cat, and Mutants.
Pretty good collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as the barrier of entry for these, like just to even get one of those pieces gets higher and higher. I mean, yeah, like the idea of like fractionalization or just being able to invest in like a fund in general would be more like just more plausible for people, right, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I could see specialists like you have a company that has 5 people that are curating all of the NFTs, and then they raise a big amount of money, and then just make all the purchases.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a case, like a lot more, not just friends, but like people who have money looking for some sort of yield, and they're going to naturally find themselves into the NFT world. So it'll be a bunch of people get together and they'll find someone who's like, knows what NFTs are about and get that person to kind of spend their money. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to happen. I'm sure we're going to see it with athletes. I'm sure we're going to see it with, lots of other professionals who have money kicking around, because a lot of people are pretty upset that they're, making almost nothing on their investments right now.
All right. So one more. It's had to do, give me 2 seconds, guys. So will punks ever be available on other marketplaces or only on Larva Labs? For example, on Coinbase?
Yeah, so I can try to answer that real quickly. So punks are ERC20 tokens. They came out before ERC 721, which are the tokens that are on the contract for OpenSea. So that's why they can't be on OpenSea as is. But then a while back, someone figured out how to wrap them, which is basically you send your punk to a contract and it sends you an ERC 721 token in exchange that represents that punk. So then that token can be traded on any platform that trades NFTs. So Rarible, OpenSea, for example, you can buy a punk. It just has to be wrapped. But if the owner of the punk hasn't chosen to wrap it, then it won't be available. So that's why the selection is so low.
I would say that there's nothing that stops Coinbase from trading these things, though, like allowing them to be traded. Like OpenSea could trade ERC20s if they wanted.
Yeah.
Coinbase trades ERC20s.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah,
There's nothing like
it's just a display issue, right? That's the only thing that really matters.
it's a front end thing.
Yeah.
Well, it has
They
to
could
read the
set it up.
serial number, has to read the Punk ID and the metadata, right? I guess that's not that complicated, but that's...
Yeah, they could figure it out, I'm sure. Right?
A publicly traded company, right? They've got pots of cash.
Maybe that'll be the next Punk's bull market when Coinbase figures that shit out.
Interestingly enough, they added circuits of value, like literally in the last day or two, right? Which is the token that you need to emblem vault stuff, like rare Pepes and everything else.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm wondering, is that paving the way for those to be listed on Coinbase NFT?
Okay, so it was a pleasure answering all your questions and discussing NFTs this week. We hope that you guys join us next week for episode number 3. And this is goodbye for now.